Today, we're talking rare World War II weapons, the kinds that defined battlefields and left collectors fighting over what few survived. A handful of these rifles and submachine guns now sell for the price of a house, yet each one carries a story of innovation, desperation, or sheer audacity. So, which wartime guns should you never let go? Let's break it down. Number 9. Type 2 Paratrooper Arisaka. Let's kick things off with the Type 2 Arisaka. Japan took the tough, accurate action of their earlier Type 99 and gave paratroopers a way to jump with it by splitting the rifle at the receiver ring. A sliding wedge with a D-ring locks the forend and barrel back into the rear half in seconds, and it holds zero with surprising stubbornness for a takedown bolt gun. It stayed chambered in the standard 7.7x58, used a 5-round internal magazine, and kept the barleycorn front sight and tangent rear, often with those quirky early war anti-aircraft wings. Production landed around 19,000, which is a whisper compared to Japan's mainline rifles. Many stocks were finished in a hurry, and post-war defacement of the Emperor's chrysanthemum mark is common. Find a rifle with matching numbers and an intact crest, and you've got something special. These rifles show up in US collections because Marines and soldiers brought them back from the Pacific. That's the provenance that gives them personality. Auction results tell the market where the floor sits, just over $4,000 for a tidy, mismatched example. And the ceiling climbs fast with condition, matching parts, accessories, and a crisp chrysanthemum. For anyone who collects airborne kit, it's a genuine field-use solution that actually works. Love World War II firepower? Hit subscribe and gear up. From battlefield legends to collector's gold, we're diving deep into the rarest weapons of the war. Don't miss a single blast. Subscribe now. Number 8. Gewehr 41W and Gewehr 41M. Next up is Germany's first serious stab at a semi-auto service rifle, which came with rules that hobbled the results. The G41 had to avoid drilling the barrel for a gas port, which pushed both Mauser and Walter toward the muzzle trap bang system. The Mauser version clung tightly to the spec sheet and suffered for it. Heavy, cantankerous, and quick to foul. Walter bent a few rules, and its G41W worked better in the field. Soldiers finally had a 10-round stripper clip-fed self-loader in the 7.92x57 surface cartridge. But the design still fought mud and rain, and the American tests found the M1 Garand more reliable. Even so, the G41W laid the rails to the G43 and K43, which ditched the muzzle trap and borrowed what worked from the SVT-40. About 120,000 G41s rolled out in total, the bulk being Walters. Many stayed on the Eastern Front until war's end, which means today's survivors are thin on the ground. Values track condition and matching parts. A decade ago, you'd see estimates in the 7,000 to 13,000 range. High-condition, fully matching rifles today comfortably hit $15,000 to $20,000. For a collection that traces how bolt guns yielded to semi-autos, the G41 is the awkward but essential bridge you hold onto. Number 7. Sturmgewehr 44. Number 7 is Schmeisser's creation, the Sturmgewehr 44. This wasn't just another assault rifle, it was the world's first assault rifle. When it hit the field in 1943, it rewrote the playbook for infantry firepower. Compact, select fire, and chambered for an intermediate rifle cartridge. It became the template that modern military rifles still trace back to. After early MKB-42 prototypes and the MP-43 and 44 cover designations, the STG-44 reached troops in 1943 to 44 with a simple recipe that changed everything. The 7.92x33 quartz, feeding a reliable, selective fire carbine that lived comfortably between a bolt rifle and an SMG. It gave German squads a controllable 30-round burst option out to practical ranges where most firefights actually happened. The gun proved robust in cold and mud on the Eastern Front, even if Allied soldiers sometimes called it bulky. Its accessories were audacious. The Krumlov curved barrel and Vampire night vision rig showed a willingness to experiment at scale. Most importantly, it set the blueprint for the later rifles that followed, from Setma and HK to the AK and beyond. Around 425,000 were made, but battlefield wear, post-war destruction, and US registry limits mean fully original matching examples in America are scarce. Transferable wartime pieces with the right parts mix commonly trade in the $20,000 to $30,000 range, and extraordinary sets with period extras climb from there. If you're lucky enough to have one that hasn't been messed with, it's an heirloom that ties modern rifle craft back to its inflection point. Fascinated by World War II weapons? Lock and load, then subscribe. From iconic rifles to forgotten sidearms, discover the gear that shaped history. These are the treasures you never sell. Stay sharp and subscribe today. Number 6. Volkssturmgewehr VG-15. Nothing captures late war desperation like the VG-15. Karl Barnitsky's Guslav team cut the parts count to the bone, stamping where possible, leaving finish work crude, and using a gas-delayed blowback trick that let the barrel sleeve recoil with the bolt. It fed from standard STG mags and fired the same Kurz round, but ergonomics were rudimentary and the fixed sights were set for 100 meters with big holds beyond that. It was meant for the Volkssturm, older men, boys, and anyone else pressed into the Reich's last line. The rifle was ugly, but no gimmick. That gas delay idea later resurfaced brilliantly in the H&K P7 pistol. Roughly 10,000 were made in 1945, and many vanished in the chaos that followed, which is exactly why surviving examples feel like relics from a collapsing factory floor. A recent sale pegged a clean VG-15 just shy of $30,000, $29,995. Proof that collectors don't only chase refinement, they chase the stories that weapons embody. If your rack includes one of these, you're holding a chapter of industrial triage and a weird spark of ingenuity that outlived its moment. Number 5. Japanese Type 5 and Type 4. Japan's engineers understood what the M1 Garand brought to a firefight. At Yokosuka Naval Arsenal, they chased a domestic answer chambered in 7.7 by 58 Arisaka, copying the Garand's rotating bolt and gas system while ditching the end-block clip for a fixed 10-round magazine topped with 2 5-round Arisaka strippers. The concept solved the clip mismatch problem, but introduced new feeding headaches, and the war clock ran out before the team could smooth it all. About 200 part sets were made, fewer than 130 rifles reached full assembly in 1945. 20 were captured at Yokosuka, and most survivors today live behind glass in museum cases or in the rarest private collections. This rifle is often called the Type 5 because of a post-war report, but Type 4 is the correct period designation. What gives it gravity isn't polish, it's what it represents, a serious attempt to close the semi-auto gap at the 11th hour. That rarity drives value. When examples surface, auction houses talk in estimates, and those estimates aren't shy. $25,000 to $40,000 depending on provenance and completeness. If you ever stumble across one, you don't move it along. You build the rest of the story around it. Number 4. Japanese Type 100. Japan arrived late to the SMG party, but the Type 100 still carved out a role in jungles and raids where compact automatic fire counted more than raw energy. Early 1942 production had a controllable 450 round per minute cadence, and in a very Japanese twist, a bayonet lug. The simplified 1944 pattern sped manufacturing, lost the bayonet, and sped the action to around 800 rounds per minute, which made it busier in the hands. The 8x22 Nambu cartridge is mild next to the 9mm or 45 ACP, but for close-in fights, it got work done, especially in the hands of paratroopers and special raiding forces like Giretsu. About 8,500 to 10,000 were built, and many never left the islands they were fought over. The small number that did reach the US did so as bringbacks, often with paperwork that ties them to specific campaigns. That provenance matters as much as condition. Values used to sit in the mid-teens to $30,000, but the market's been on the move. In May 2024, a Nagoya gun with combat history brought $84,000 at Rock Island, and that's the kind of sale that recalibrates expectations. If your example folds for parachute drops, all the better. You've got a rarer configuration on a rare gun. Number 3. SIG MKMS and MKPS. Swiss engineers at SIG tried to make an SMG behave like a precision carbine. The early MKMO used a sophisticated hesitation lock borrowed from Pedersen's ideas. Later MKMS and MKPS models simplified things to an open bolt blowback, but the ethos stayed the same. Exquisite machining, long barrels, and clever touches like a folding magazine housing that tucked flat along the stock for carry. Fire control ran through a dual-stage trigger, short press for single, long press for burst. Sights were optimistically graduated way out, which says a lot about how SIG imagined the role. In practice, these were too expensive for big contracts, and too heavy to compete with stamped warhorses like the Sten or PPSH. Total production across all variants hovered around 1,200. Finland bought a few hundred, and Swiss police and even the Vatican Guard carried small batches. Otherwise, they lived quiet lives on the margins. That scarcity makes them catnipped for advanced collections. Museum-level pieces are the norm, and when one crosses the block in the US, it draws attention. In May of 2022, an MKPS hammered at $79,200, and that aligns with where this family now sits. Esoteric, beautifully made, and increasingly expensive. Number 2. Johnson M1941. The Johnson LMG looks unconventional because it solves a different problem than the BAR. It weighs less, strips easily, and fires from open bolt and auto and closed bolt and semi, so you can lay in a careful shot and still hose when you need to. The 20-round side magazine is an acquired taste, but topping off with clips or singles is simple, and the straight-line stock helps tame climb. Rate of fire is adjustable from remarkably sedate to brisk, which makes it adaptable to commando work. Marines, the 1st Special Service Force, and later the Philippine Army all put it to use, and the design hopped across border, inspiring Israel's Dror and showing up in Cuban islands with Che. Only about 9,500 were built. Many got used hard, and very few are transferable in the US registry. That scarcity, paired with the gun's reputation among elite units, has pushed prices sharply up. A decade back, mid-30,000s would buy one. By September 2023, sales were hitting 68,400, and in December of 2023, a record set the bar at $141,000. If you're curating a narrative of American small unit firepower, this is a pillar piece you keep. Number 1. FG-42. Last but not least is the FG-42. It was born from the Luftwaffe's brutal lesson over Crete. Paratroopers needed a weapon that they could jump with that still delivered rifle reach and suppressive fire. Issued in 1943 and built in tiny numbers by Heinrich Krieghoff, it paired a 20-round side magazine with a clever firing system, close bolt and semi for accuracy, open bolt and full auto for cooling. Chambered in 7.92 by 57mm, it wore a folding bipod, integral spike bayonet, and could take a ZF-4 optic, which let Fallschirmjäger use it as a marksman's tool or a light automatic rifle. Control on full auto was a handful because it threw a full power cartridge from a relatively light frame, and maintenance demanded a careful hand. That said, it pushed design thinking decades ahead. Its layout and operating ideas influenced US projects that led toward the M60 and the T-44 and M14 line. Only about 5,000 left the factory. Many lost to combat attrition, which keeps authentic examples at the absolute top of the World War II collector pyramid. So, why is it number 1 on this list? Because it's the rarest and the most expensive. An FG-42 Type 1 hit $316,250 at Rock Island, and a Type 2 cleared $241,500. If you own one, you don't sell it. You become its steward. And that's it for our run through the World War II weapons you never sell, from ingenious paratrooper rifles to record-breaking collector pieces. Got a different piece in your collection that deserves a spot on this list? Drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear. Hit like, share this with your history crew, and subscribe for more deep dives into iconic firearms.